A United Nations court will allow a genocide case against Israel to proceed over the country's war in Gaza. Plus, deepfake nudes of Taylor Swift are prompting action from lawmakers and tech companies. Mass layoffs across multiple industries are going viral with the "watch me lose my job" trend on social media. And a breakthrough in gene therapy has cured deafness for the first time. The United Nations International Court of Justice is refusing to drop South Africa's case against Israel, accusing the country of committing genocide against Palestinian civilians in Gaza in Israel's war on Hamas. Proceedings in the case could take years. Until then, the ICJ is ordering Israel to increase efforts to protect Palestinians and provide humanitarian aid to Gaza. But the court did not call for a ceasefire. Israel denies the allegations of genocide, but the court's decision means genocide claims are plausible. The ruling is legally binding under the 1948 Genocide Convention. If Israel doesn't comply, there won't really be any consequences because enforcement with the UN is political. The daily death rate in Gaza is higher than any recent major armed conflict, including Syria, Sudan, Iraq, Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Yemen. So this is a massive situation. Geopolitical tensions are incredibly high in the region, and one misstep could launch World War III. So the international community is paying attention.
So what are your thoughts about all that?
It's really interesting to see how much public sentiment about this conflict has changed over the past couple years. A few years ago, if you mentioned the words genocide or apartheid regarding Israelis' treatment of Palestinians, you'd be labeled an anti-Semite. But today, the conversation is more nuanced. Maybe not so much here in the US, but in the rest of the globe. Of course, anti-Semitism is a real problem, no doubt. Nobody's denying that. But as a global community, we really need to ensure that we don't conflate true anti-Semitism with legitimate protest of the policies and actions of the Israeli government and military. Microsoft is scrambling to update its free AI software, Microsoft Designer, after explicit deepfake nudes of Taylor Swift began circulating online, gaining 27 million views. The fake images were reportedly created by a group of people on Telegram who make and share explicit AI-generated images of women. Tyson, we've talked about how AI can be used for nefarious purposes or good. Now, in this case, this is not great, and it's still the wild, wild west of artificial intelligence, and there aren't many safeguards for how it should be used.
First of all, where are these pictures? Just for research purposes?
Well, they took them down.
Rats.
You were part of the problem. After the deepfakes of Taylor Swift circulated online, the White House and Congress responded saying we need to take action against nefarious AI. Ohio lawmakers are also proposing a law against malicious deepfakes that would criminalize explicit material of children and adults who did not give their consent. AI-generated material depicting sexual abuse of minors is a real problem. In one Kentucky case, a man pleaded guilty to possessing real images of such abuse, for which he faces time. But he doesn't face time for the AI-generated child abuse images that were also found with him. So it's really interesting to see that because of Taylor Swift, Congress and companies are paying attention because she's Taylor Swift. But this has been a problem for a while now, and we haven't seen Congress take action to address it.
So as a woman, how would you feel if someone were to make deep fake nudes of news with Brigida?
Oh my God, that sounds absolutely horrifying and embarrassing and violating and just disgusting. Like, I would not be okay with that.
What if we solved the problem by just deep fake nuding everyone on the planet? And it's called the day that everyone's nudes got leaked.
Okay, so that actually makes me laugh, and the reason is because back in 2017 I was talking about how there aren't a lot of women in STEM jobs, so science, engineering, math, technology, which means that it's mainly men programming AI systems. So they're designing it, they're overwhelmingly programming it, engineering it.
Using it to make nudes.
AI becomes the ultimate expression of men. So all their biases are seeping into these programs. I think something like 96% of all deepfakes are sexually explicit, and of course those are depicting women. So this is a huge problem for women. I think you're onto something there. Now, I'm not in favor of violating people's rights and having fake nudes of them that look incredibly realistic out there without their consent. But I think you're onto something that I think men would understand this more if it was showing them personally nude, doing lewd acts with other men. That would maybe get them to care about it more. I don't know that men really think about this in the way that we as women do. Plus, a lot of women have been sexually assaulted. And so if they see images of themselves being violated that aren't real, it could be pretty traumatizing. That said, if somebody is making deepfake lewds and nudes of me and there's nothing I can do about it, then you better believe I want a cut of my residuals, okay? If you are making porn without my consent, using my likeness and my image, I need to see the proceeds of that.
So I don't understand how this Microsoft tool can do that, because anytime I've used any AI, and I've used a lot of AI software, Photoshop, if I try to even extend the frame and it's a girl in a bikini, won't let me do it. Midjourney won't let, it's like they all have so many net nannies on them that they won't let you do anything if they even detect too much skin. So like I don't understand how this tool is just making any kind of porn available. I'll have to try it and find out.
Tyson, no.
Sorry, I didn't mean it like that.
No,
I
Tyson,
mean,
no.
I just want to extend the frame. I want to be able to do edits on. I did a job
Don't
doing
be part of the
photo
problem
retouching
here,
on
okay?
bikini model. So what?
Would you care, Tyson, if someone made deepfake nudes of you?
I don't think I'd care if someone made deepfake nudes. I mean, it's not going to look like me. It's going to be
What if
somebody
it looks
else's body.
exactly like you and you can't tell it? But here's the kicker. But they do something weird to your man anatomy that is
Weird?
offensive or unflattering, or depicts you doing some kind of lewd act with an animal or I
Bag
don't
of
know if that
potato
would bother
chips.
you. What if it looked so real that you could not tell that it was fake, and then it cost you your job, your relationship?
Why would
your
my employer be
friends?
looking at this?
What?
Why would my employer look at it?
I mean, I'm your employer, so I would.
Oh, you would look at it?
I mean, I
Okay.
probably would look at it if it crossed it. I'd be like, Tyson, you're hard up right now. Okay, I don't want to say that. I meant like you're strapped for cash.
So I never thought about having a deep fake nude of myself and who would be looking at it, so I didn't care. But yeah, you bring up an interesting point. It would be upsetting if it was. It could be terrible, and what you just said, wouldn't want that.
Sexually explicit content is not just a problem with artificial intelligence, it's also just a problem in general on social media. 100,000 children apparently are sexually harassed every day across meta platforms, which includes Facebook and Instagram, and that sexual harassment often includes minors getting pictures of adult genitalia. So we do really need to address this issue.
A lot of pervs out there. A lot of pervs. And they just keep doing it.
Yep.
Like, fearless pervs, too. Yeah, I guess we're living in an age where faking everything, audio and video, is going to be a huge problem, especially this year with, the election. I heard that robocalls with, AI voice deepfakes is like starting to come out now, and that's going to be something to try to persuade people during the election. And I think people like my parents are prime suspects to be scammed. They've been scammed so many times lately. Like they moved and they got scammed by the moving company that was a fake Hertz moving company. I bought them a Bose sound system and they set it up, but my stepdad installed a fake Bose app that just stole his credit card data. So they just get scammed all the time.
Oh,
So
no.
I can easily see them getting called and it sounds like my voice or someone in the family, and there's next thing I know, like, oh, we sent all the life savings away. I have an
Yeah.
aunt also that did a Nigerian scam, sent all of her life savings away.
Oh no. Yeah, we really need some kind of like tech literacy training for seniors so
Yeah.
that they don't get scammed. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess kids, it's on you.
They're also,
Us
they're
to,
the
like,
prime
teach our
suspects to be scammed because they're wealthy people that don't know anything about technology.
Yeah, well, you need to give your parents a lesson on how to not get scammed so that they don't get scammed.
Maybe they'll watch this video.
And now, a moment of silence for mainstream media. Nearly a dozen mainstream news companies are laying off staff as the industry struggles to make money in the digital age. Journalists and staff have been cut from the Los Angeles Times, New York Daily News, Sports Illustrated, National Geographic, Business Insider, Forbes, and so on. Staff at some newsrooms have staged walkouts and strikes to protest planned cuts and demand answers from management. Last year, the media industry suffered its highest level of job cuts on record, and this year, that trend is continuing. The industry is suffering for a variety of reasons, but some of them include debt from media consolidation, subscription fatigue. People are tired of paying so much money for all these different subscriptions, and a slowdown in ads and ad revenue. Plus, recent Gallup polls show that public trust in mainstream news has reached historic lows. So this is all the perfect recipe for the death of mainstream media.
Do you think that's really happening, that it's dying off, or is it just a phase?
No, I think it absolutely is dying off, especially with online publications and old newspapers that are now moving online. But also, if you watch the major network news outlets, you know, their viewership has been dwindling for quite some time now, and people that are independent are getting more views in some cases than those legacy media outlets.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say here. I feel like our media, whether it's news or any type of entertainment, it's so fractured now. There's so many different types of things that people could watch. And I did see an interesting video from Terrence McKenna back in 1996 when the internet was just getting started. He was predicting by the year 2024 that people would start watching independent media through the internet more than mainstream media. So,
well, he nailed it. He's correct.
that was a good prediction. So there's been a lot of layoffs in news and journalism, and a lot of people are unemployed in Hollywood right now after the strikes, and also the streaming service bubble seems to have burst completely, and they're just not shooting stuff. I saw an article that said that, you know, a large percentage of shows and TV has just shut down right now still because, you know, the streaming services went through the phase in the early part of this decade trying to all attract viewers, and now they're realizing that none of them can be Netflix. They all wanted to be Netflix, so, you know, no one can afford all these streaming services, so they're not shooting shows anymore for them, and no one's getting jobs.
Yeah, in one aspect, it is democratizing media because there are so many choices now. There are so many streaming services. There is so much content now, but there is way too much content. It's hard for people to know where to start. So they may subscribe to one streaming service this month, and then they get bored of it, or they watch it all or whatever, and they cancel that one, and then they jump to another one. So all of these competitors, I'm not sure how many of them are really gonna last.
Yeah, it's gonna have to go back to like cable type of situation, or maybe there's just two streaming services and they're bundles of everything else.
I actually think the media landscape is going to go somewhere else. The only market solution that I can really see is moving to something like micropayments, and of course, you know, new media, people that are like us who are doing independent shows. Maybe there's some way that we can monetize, you know, any day now. But I do think that moving to micropayments makes the most sense, especially when it comes to the news media. Not everybody can afford to subscribe to the New York Times, the LA Times, Wall Street Journal, etc. You know, so if you want to read just one article, but you're presented with a paywall, then you can't read that article, so then you go somewhere else to find that. Instead, they should just allow people to come on and do some sort of micropayment, like a couple cents to read an article. And then it's up to the newspapers to decide how they want to distribute that money, whether it goes to the writers or whatever. But I think that will be the future, in addition to subscription-based content.
I'm definitely on my way to get fired right now.
Mass layoffs are also happening in the tech sector, and young employees are documenting the experience of getting fired on social media. The "watch me lose my job" trend on TikTok and other social media platforms highlights how common layoffs are becoming, and it's actually helping to destigmatize job loss. Back in the day, it was something that was seen as more shameful, but I think since 2020, layoffs have become pretty regular, starting with lockdowns, and so a lot of us have been there. You know, we've talked about on the show why we're doing our own shows, because we were laid off and replaced by robots, by AI,
So this TikTok trend, how does it go? I haven't seen it.
So usually at companies, you kind of catch wind that people are getting laid off because you'll see one department get let go, and you'll get an email that says, plan to be on this Zoom meeting with your higher ups at whatever time. And so people know that they're gonna get pink slipped and fired. Yeah, so they go online and they document the process. They'll invite you to come along, or they'll say, hey, I'm going in to get fired right now. And then they tell you how it makes them feel.
I literally went over in therapy, how to prepare myself, and I'm already crying before it even started. So I'm just leaving, and I'm really upset.
Most of them are actually really heartbreaking and sad. I saw one woman say, watch me lose my job 2 days before Christmas, and she was really upset. And a lot of young people, they've never lost a job before, so for them, it is kind of depressing.
So is it just to kind of communally commiserate the thing that we're all sharing right now?
Yeah, that's exactly what it seems to be. And I've also seen some really funny ones.
Hi, what's this meeting for?
Unfortunately, today we're cutting staff, and you've been affected. Why are you laughing?
No, Sorry, it's just...
It's not
you're
funny.
broke.
What?
That's like so
That's
embarrassing for
offensive.
you.
That's rude.
No, I mean, you should have told me. I didn't know you guys were this poor.
Some are funny, some are really sad and heartbreaking. But yes, I do think it's bringing a sense of camaraderie in this really weird technological shift that we're having where people are losing their jobs because of technology changing.
Who's hiring right now?
An 11-year-old boy who was born deaf has gained the ability to hear after receiving a revolutionary gene therapy treatment. Gene therapy modifies a person's individual genes to treat or cure diseases, and it's a game-changing medical tool. The groundbreaking surgical procedure involved partially lifting the boy's eardrum and introducing a modified virus that was engineered to transport functional copies of the otoferlin gene into his cochlea. This stimulated the production of missing protein in the sound-sensitive cells of the ear, restoring proper function. Now, he has to learn how to live in a world with sound, which, Tyson, that's gotta be pretty weird, suddenly hearing sounds after being completely in silence for 11 years, your entire life.
Yeah, I have no idea what that's like, but it's great that technology can do something like this. We've always been hoping for the future when we solve diseases and problems, and maybe it's starting to happen.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the boy's experience is because experts say that he's unlikely to ever speak since the brain's ability to learn how to talk closes around age 5. So he might be able to hear, but he may not be able to speak. And I've also seen other people who have gained sight through other types of medical innovations, and they didn't like it because they said that they actually didn't know how to relate to the world anymore now that everything had changed for them. So it'll be really interesting to see what his experience is like having hearing again.
Do you think they developed their extrasensory senses due to the lack of the other normal senses, and now it's like too much sense when it comes back?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Who's to say? I mean, only this young man can tell us. But yeah, I imagine that it would be sensory overload to be able to hear things, but it would also be really amazing that he can hear his parents' voices, his friends' voices, and hear music and all these things that maybe he had always wondered about but never heard before. Or it could just be completely overwhelming and too much for him. Who knows?
This makes me think of Daredevil in Marvel Comics. He's a blind superhero and he developed his radar-like senses. But what if they cured his blindness and he could see again? What if that messed up his superhero powers?
If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe for more stories like this. Thanks for watching. I'm Brigida.